You're 22, too hot to handle. Girl, I wanna handle you. You're 20.
That wave a white flag. Discuss, then we love. We pray, then we we fight, then we trust. Come check this.
Hello, I'm still glowing a bit because Kate and I had a fantastic live session, and we're teaching a private live class on constructing on a bias. And because if you teach at a team, you lay out, you plan the lesson, but then because you always have a pause when the other person is sharing information, you think of another helpful thing for students. So we had a great 45 minutes, just lots of information, so a little bit intense, but hopefully our students learned loads. And we'll be back with our drafting diary classes in April. There'll be a YouTube live and 2 more private classes. I also wanted to show you, have you noticed a difference? I'm sort of doing a row of books at the top, and I've gone slightly over the top and organized everything by subject. The pattern cutting books, which are growing constantly, sewing books, going on to fabric books. Then I've done fashion books, and then fashion history, and then I've got 2 shelves of random. The stuff I still have to sort, so it's more textiles, there is embroidery, knitting and crochet. I don't keep much fashion magazines, but I've got a few really nice ones. More pattern cutting, dolls clothes. I've never done any dolls clothes, but I've got some books just in case. More pattern cutting, sort of more specialist stuff, and just general handicraft. Just lots of books. I'm gonna sort them out and then hopefully share some more with you over the coming months. Let me know if anything jumps out at you. Let's have some fun and change our darts into a curved. Let's learn some basic dart manipulation. Drawing your new.
Come check this. Come check this. Come check this.
Mess around, I'm having fun. Don't put me down. I never let you sweep me off my feet.
Come check this.
No nonsense, not too big on laughs, but he's got an absolutely brilliant analytic mind. The Con Ed people, I'm happy to hear, told the NBC executives that there is no reason to believe the presence of the NBC building will affect the smokestack. Unfortunately, Con Ed won't be the last word. Before we can get our approvals, we'll have to get an independent environmental impact statement. 3:15 p.m. I call Herbert Sturz of the City Planning Commission, which will be the first city agency to approve
system or unpaid liabilities. Once you have taken on the burden of a mortgage, the last thing you'll need is a huge tax bill. Number 3, look for hidden costs. There always are some, and they can sink you if you're not careful.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I think the opening of a seminar is so important that if you will indulge me, I'm going to read a short prepared speech before the seminar itself begins. Once upon a time,
precious stones, semi-precious stones, gemstones, crystals. They are physically beautiful. They catch the light. They are rare. They are gathered from the landscape, mined from the earth. They have been used throughout human history for devotion and for decoration. This object here is a rock crystal amulet container. The container could have been worn as a pendant, attached to a cord, hung around the neck, or attached to the person somewhere, something to keep with you, to protect you. This pendant is made up of 2 pieces of rock crystal, which is a microcrystalline mineral that is a quartz. The ancient sources that talk about the generation and formation of rock crystal describe the mineral as being made of an elemental combination of both air and water. The word crystallos, that forms the word crystal, is actually an ancient Greek word for ice. And when you undo the screw loop holding the container together at the top, you can open the container up. And you can see from the inside the 2 separate pieces of rock crystal, which have been hollowed out from the inside with 3 different cavities. And inside the cavities would have been placed crayfish eyes to treat any ailments around vision and sight. It's not just what went in the container that had this medicinal function. Rock crystal was closely associated with healing eye problems during the period that this was made. Jewelry was worn for its protective powers, but also as a sign of faith, and rock crystal has symbolic associations in a devotional context as well. This small rock crystal reliquary cross was made at some point during the 17th century, probably in southern Europe. In these 2 objects, there's a link between the transparency of the rock crystal as a material and its ability to aid vision in different ways. Because rock crystal is transparent with a slightly magnifying quality, it was used to house relics that would have been really difficult to see. Things like fingernails, hair, saints' tears. The pieces of relics here, we don't know what they are, but they're very small pieces wrapped in paper. This is a really precious object that has been finely crafted with colourful enameled gold on each end of the cross. It has a pendant loop at the top that again signifies that it probably would have been worn or kept with the person. The connection between the purity of the stone, the cosmos, and the divine is definitely something that the maker would have considered when crafting an object that was used as a container for the most sacred of holy matter. People have been studying stones since ancient times and trying to list their different qualities, magic powers, or medicinal purposes. Following the studies of ancient authors, books listing the power of stones became really popular. These types of books came to be known as lapidaries. We use the word lapidary still today. A lapidarist is someone that works with stone, that cuts it and carves it. In our collections, we have a lapidary book that was popular in 17th century England. It was written by Thomas Nichols, a Cambridge scholar, published in 1652. This type of book was a precursor to a type of encyclopedia. It was supposed to give you information very systematically about each of the stones. Helpfully included in this book is a fold-out diagram which helps you identify stones by asking you a series of questions. Is the stone small or is it great? Is it rare or is it common? And then you follow the options through to the stone chart until you find these lists of stones. Garnet, rubies, diamonds, all of the types of stones that were used for decorative purposes. The symbolic, magical and therapeutic properties of different gemstones were often incorporated into the design for the jewellery. This pendant was made in England between 1540 and 1560. And you can see here the three jewels that have been selected for the design. The green jewel at the top is a peridot, the middle stone is a hessonite garnet, and the blue stone hanging is a sapphire. This pendant would have been worn around the neck, and we know that it had a protective function because if we turn it over and look at the back, there is an inscription here around the peridot that was thought to ward off epilepsy. There is an inscription too which invokes God, which also would have been a form of protection. These stones haven't been fully backed with gold, which allows for some contact between the stone and the wearer's skin, making the pendant as protective as possible. The maker and the owner of this pendant would have chosen stones for specific reasons, and it may well have been that they would have consulted a lapidary book to try and understand what the protection offered by specific stones would be. If we look up sapphire in our lapidary book to see what it says, you can see here chapter 10. It tells us about the sapphire's tincture, that is the way it looks, its colour. It tells us where it might be found, and it also tells us its different names, the different kinds of sapphires that are found, and furthermore it tells us about its different faculties or properties. Sapphire was thought to be a useful jewel to wear to keep you chaste, and the physical property of the stone, its kind of medicinal therapeutic purpose, is listed here as helping to prevent the erections of Venus. Also, cool a fever, cure a stammer, promote chastity. We don't know who the original owner of this pendant was, but perhaps they were given it as a gift to ensure their chastity. Or if they chose it for themselves, maybe they chose the sapphire for its soothing, calming properties. This amulet case was made in the 19th century in Tibet. It would have been tied into braids and worn in the hair, and it would have been worn by an official of the Tibetan government of the 4th rank or above. So not only is it a protective object, it is also a striking symbol of social status. The amulet box is inlaid with turquoise stones, and traditionally in the jewellery of the Himalayas, turquoise is revered for its beauty and for its spiritual value. Amulet cases would have carried paper, scrolls, or other sacred objects that were thought to protect the wearer from malevolent forces. This box would have opened from the back by lifting the metal panel, and the scrolls would have been placed inside. An interesting thing about turquoise is that the stone changes colour. It starts to discolour and pale as it interacts with its environment. But the stones might change at different rates. Perhaps the turquoise might have been seen to have faded as someone aged or became ill. There were also claims of when passing turquoise on to someone of the next generation, it would regain its colour with the youth of its new owner. This small carved mythical beast called a qilin was made during the Ming dynasty in China in the 1500s. It has been carved from a nephrite jade pebble. There are two different types of jade. This object is made from a creamy brown nephrite jade that would have been found locally in the northwestern, now autonomous region of China. When a jade specimen is gathered up from the riverbed, it has this russet-coloured skin towards the outside of the specimen. So it's really the skill of the craftsperson to kind of incorporate these different colours into a carved object like this. The carver has incorporated the russet colour into the carved tail to make it a different colour from the head. Also, the horns of the mythical animal have got this brown tinge. This technique of incorporating the natural colouring of the stone is a Chinese technique that translates into English as ingenious colour. Jade has been revered for its sensuous and material qualities throughout Chinese cultural history. It is a material that has auspicious connotations. It symbolises good luck and prosperity. Jade is considered to be an incredibly virtuous stone. These two objects are bloodstone intaglios. So an intaglio is an image that is incised, or engraved, or cut into the surface of a stone. Bloodstone is a striking patterned stone. It's green, it has red flecks in it, likened to spots of blood. This bloodstone intaglio was made in the 1700s, and it has a scorpion inscribed on it. The scorpion you can see on the front of the ring, and also a small one on the back here. This might have referenced the function of the bloodstone itself, its natural property to ward off poisonous creatures. But the classical symbolism of the scorpion engraved on a stone had a protective function in and of itself. Its symbolism has been used in intaglios like this one since antiquity. This bloodstone intaglio was carved in the 3rd century. It would have had an amuletic potential when it was made. It's been carved with the serpent-footed figure of the Gnostic god Abraxas. This was a protective image, the figure brandishing the whip. The whip was to scare away any evil forces. And the bloodstone itself also would have had this protective function. The 18th century ring was made at a moment where there was a real craze for everything antique. It was a moment where archaeological sites were being excavated and throwing up all of these exciting ancient objects. So this example is actually drawing very strongly on this antique tradition of carving in bloodstone. In this very new looking lunchbox is a very old object. It's actually one of my favourite objects in the museum. It was made in the 3rd or 4th century in ancient Rome. and it is a statuette of an empress made from amethyst. You can see the different tones of the amethyst. You can even see around the figure's face, the curls of the hair, the toes sticking out from underneath the costume. Amethyst was scarce in the 3rd and 4th century when this figure was carved, so this figure would have been extremely precious. In Pliny's Natural History, a text authored in the 1st century, amethyst was given powerful attributes. And these powerful attributes included an antidote for intoxication, clarity of mind to ward off drunkenness. When held and kept about the person, it could protect you from hail, locusts, and bad spells. I think what's really amazing about an object like this that comes from ancient Rome is that it's made it to today, and that in itself is probably testament to some kind of power that it holds to endure. In the collections at the V&A, there are an array of objects made from colourful stone. These objects may have different symbolic, medicinal or magical associations across times and places. And what's so amazing about seeing a collection of all of these different stones is that they have this power to transport us to a specific time and place and really just connect us back to the earth.